Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 7 of Season 1, 2024 of Endurance for Amateurs here at Mugello among the Tuscany Hills for the first time ever. Brought to you by Ninja Botanicals and AlienAwards.net. Coming up is a 90-minute race with GTD and GTP classes, and 2 weeks ago was another exciting race in Fuji, which saw Paul Skip return to the top step in the GTP class with Jay Smart taking his first fastest lap of the season. Skip holds just a 5-point lead over Nick Terrell and 10-point lead over Nick Paletti heading into tonight. GTDA was won for the 5th time in 6 races by Ken Huber after Chris Thacker appeared on pole position in his debut and lost the lead late through the pits. Paul Boyle and Jeff McDonald joined Ken on the podium for both a first podium on the season. Huber holds a 33-point lead over Eric Bellata in second, but a tight battle is being fought for third currently between Tyler Langenberg and Travis Rowe, separated by 3 points. GTDB was won by James Foreman for the second week in a row, now matching Nathan Westland in wins on the season. Foreman, with the win, overtakes Jesse Coffey in the season standings by just a single point, with Nathan Westland 19 points back. Tonight is going to be a difficult race here at Mugello Circuit. It is a first time for everybody here. It's a brand new track to iRacing service, and just watching through the practice, it looks extremely difficult. I wish I could point out the couple spots that we may see some issues, some errors, but from what I saw during practice, it seems like that's possible everywhere, and that's not to even get into the discussion on the difficulty of these curbs. So this track does have 3D curbs, which is just a thing that they're adding to tracks recently, that they're implementing, and they'll continue doing so over time. But what it seems to have been doing for officials that were happening here last week with these same cars in the IMSA series was just completely melting the tires in a normal race stint. Some GTPs were saying they were getting into the 20s at the end of just a 45, 50-minute stint. So with 85% fuel, they don't necessarily have to go all that way. They don't have to do an entire stint, but tire wear is going to be an issue. Some of these guys may be finding themselves in some big issues, and especially that last splash and dash that they try to do in either of those classes, if they do that, will be a little bit more stressful because you're going to have to be going extra long on those tires. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. Shouldn't affect them too much here in practice, but you can see from that track map, it's just full of corners here, and a lot of corners that can really undo your race. So as we follow on board with Paul Skip here, our GTP leader for the season championship, see if he's able to put a strong time on top of the board here to start as he flies around Buccine into really probably the most likely passing opportunity on this track, this long straight down into San Donato. San Donato, a very tough braking zone as well, so has the opportunity for making a move with a 133.3 on the board. Outside of this straight, it is going to be really difficult, I think, to be making a lot of passes on this track. There are straights, but they are not very long. They're short little pieces of track, such as what he's coming up to right now after Poggio Secco. Just a very short little run down into Materassi. Nothing that I think you could typically get a pass done unless the driver in front of you made a mistake before you. So you can see he's really feathering that throttles. Ken Huber, our leader for the GT3s, puts in his first time on the board, a 148.4, 6 tenths ahead of Kevin Berquist. James Foreman, the leader of the GTDBs, there in third, 1.2 seconds back. So starting to see some times again. You would expect more times to be on the board, but I have to imagine that there's some off tracks invalidating, especially for the GTPs, invalidating some of those times. But we are seeing some green sectors being put in. Sheldon Rosenbaum here, I believe a debut for the league in a very striking livery, one that I honestly couldn't stop looking at it during practice because it doesn't even look like it's real. Fantastic looking car that he's got there, and he's a guy that's running in that Ferrari, and we're seeing a lot of the Ferrari, actually more than we have, I think, really any of the races prior, with a lot of drivers in the Porsche as well. Jeff McDonald has appeared now first on the board in that Ferrari with a 148.3 and just pipping Ken Huber there. Paul Skip with a second lap in, improving his time to 133 flat. Still no other times put in. As I say that, John Kelly with a 134.4. So Skip not being threatened yet at this point Right now, Ken Huber with 2 purple sectors, and Nicholas Paletti right there threatening Paul Skip as he overtakes him with 132.8 to the top of the board. And Ken Huber has 2 purples in the bag coming around the final corner of Buccine, seeing if he can take this slingshot corner. It has a bit of an on-camber kind of effect. Should be good for sending the cars through there, even if they're struggling with some tire wear. Slinging down into, and yeah, 3 purple sectors on that lap. Going to put him up to first, 147.9, almost half a second clear of the rest of the field. Excuse me. Still a number of drivers with times to put in. Christopher Craig was able to finish that lap there, coming in 11th. And of the drivers not putting in times, we have 4 GTPs, and 3 of them are on track right now. So it's not for a lack of effort. I just think maybe legal laps not being put down at this point. And Elijah with certainly an improvement here. I think he made a mistake in that first lap, but not enough to, I guess, invalidate the lap, as he was 11 seconds back. Improvement of 7 seconds there. So yeah, definitely had made a mistake on that first one. Mauricio Parada, another new name here, moving his way up to 6th. So in that B class, but if he qualifies up around that range, may move himself up to A class, as well as Sheldon Rosenbaum. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we see that promotion. Most drivers already with their 3 races in for the season to make that promotion. But you can see a lot of the Ferraris of those guys up there at the top. See a couple more times coming in. Daniel Sykes trying to put in his first time on the board. A couple green sectors. Let's see where this places him. Maybe not a legal lap there as the time was put in, and nothing showing up on the board there. Ken Huber, though, making an improvement in that second sector with another purple. Yellow in the first. We'll see if this takes him at the end with the total lap time. Looks like that's 2 purples. A 147.8, slight improvement by about a 10th. Jeff McDonald still has not improved on his second place time. Don McCloy and Josh Doty behind those 2. Nick Paletti still here at the front for the GTPs with the 2/10 gap back to Paul Skip. John Kelly and Dustin Glenn close to each other, about a second and a half back from these 2. And then we're still waiting on a time for Ryan Jeevan, Nick Terrell, and Jay Smart here. Nick Terrell is on track. He wasn't on track earlier, and we now do see him on track. So I'm trying to put a time in here. So you can see, just completed his outlap. It's very difficult turn 1 of San Donato. This is probably where I saw the most incidents, and nearly has a crash there. He's going to lose a lot of time in that spinner, and he doesn't have time for another lap. This is going to be his only lap that he puts in. So, and a little bit more squirrely again as he makes his way through Poggio Secco. It's going to be a difficult lap to swallow, I think, but he's only has this one opportunity. Nicholas Paletti increasing his lead by a slight amount. Most GT3s already having put in their time, and see a couple guys. Zach Nurnberger doesn't have a time on the board yet. He's got a couple greens. He's heading through Buccine right now, trying to improve. We see him rocket down to the start-finish line. They're midway through the straight. Should be an early green flag on that race start, but still, again, no passing in through Poggio Secco here today. And Zach Nurnberger, probably not the lap he wanted there, coming in 22nd. We'll be looking for him to make up some more spots during this race, as he has done in the past. I believe he had gained the most positions at Fuji, or at least it was a recent race where he had done that. So looking to do that again here today. Not sure if Nick Terrell, let's see if that he does have a couple, looks like legal sectors in. Had some squirreliness at the start of the lap, so I don't think this is going to be where he wants it. Yeah, putting it in there right in between Dustin Glenn and Nick Terrell, 1.6 seconds back. A lot of time to be gained for him during the race. I don't think that's an indicative lap time for him as the only driver here in the Acura today. So Ryan Jeevan and Jay Smart, doesn't look like we're going to be getting a lap from them on the board, with Daniel Sykes the only GT3, I think, without a time. So with qualifying session over, we will take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you. All right, we are back, and I'm joined in the booth here by Derek. So, Derek, if you want to take us away with the GTP order that we got here for tonight.
Yes, sir. I surely will. With Doge Squad Racing, we got in first pole position Nicholas Paletti with a 132.725. Amazing time. Just behind him, Paul Skip, moderate point 0.3 seconds behind him in the Pony Express League. Behind him in third place, Dustin Glenn, followed by Nick Terrell. Again, John Kelly, P5, Ryan Juvon in sixth. Behind him is Jay Smart.
For our GTD class, Ken Huber coming away with another pole position with a 147.8, followed by a whole half second back to Jeff McDonald there in second place. I believe his strongest qualifying on the season. Don McCloy and Josh Doty rounding out our top four. Continuing on, Sheldon Rosenbaum on debut here, fifth, with Mauricio Parada also debut in sixth place. Jesse Coffey and Kevin Berquist behind them. Christopher Craig and Adri Garcia. Travis Rowe and Jack Lucas. James Foreman and Nathan Westland. Roger Shank and Rick Hughes. Greg Holland and James Rep. Dan Barnett, Aaron Claybaugh. Leonardo Elijah and Zach Nurnberger, who barely got into the session just in time. He was having some loading issues. And Philip Ranieri and Daniel Sykes rounding out our field.
We're in for a spectacle tonight here at Mugello. I know everyone's been waiting for this since we had the week off last week. Hopefully they got a good amount of practice in, as this is a rather tight track with a lot of turns and a rather long straightaway. So, I mean, I drove this track personally myself, and it is a shake up, I can tell you. It's been open for, this will be its 50th year. It opened in June 50 years ago. So a lot of racing has happened here. It's a historic track, and we're happy to be here.
Trying to figure out why. Oh, Jay Smart incorrectly being notated as the GTP class. So we'll try to fix that during a break. But Jay Smart here is in the GT3s. Did not put a qualifying time in, but he's here in that Ferrari. So try not to get too confused there by the graphic up there. There is no Ferrari GTP that we have in iRacing, but I'll try to get that fixed at a break. Letty leads our front class, though.
Just happened to slid through the gaps on the bureaucracy.
Yeah, wasn't aware, which with him switching to GT3 as well, I do believe he is above the iRating limit for the GT3s. So unless his iRating has changed, he would be a non-scoring racing member regardless. So obviously he can be out here on track and race everybody he wants, but he's not going to be scoring points for a GT3 entry if his iRating is still where it was. But Palladi leads him here through the end of the lap through Pelagio. And it's one of the many difficult sectors of this track. A lot of different types of compressions of chicanes here. Lots of ones that are tightened up and squished, ones that are strung out, like what they're coming up to soon with Biondetti. And it just is a difficult ask for these drivers because they have to adapt to so many types of turns.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. And you know what I'm very interested to watch is Dustin Glenn, our newest entry into the GTP class. This is his first race of the season. Late entry, you know, but he's trying to make his waves, and we're happy to see him here. He's sitting here ready to rip in P3. And I'm curious to watch and see how he does. He's the unknown right here as we prepare to take the green flag very soon.
Yeah, the only driver here in the Cadillac today, starting in third place in that black and white GTP that you see there behind Paul Skip's classic black and gold. And they are now rounding Buccine, so they're, again, probably going to get a pretty early green here. Still going to be no passing. Rick Hughes, it looks to be in the pits. I'm not sure if he's going to plan to start from the pits or not. We do not have him out on track. He's in the pits right now. The pace car coming in, and we'll see when Paletti gets that green flag to start going.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm going to see if I can send Rick a message and see if something happened and whatnot. But we're about to go green right here, and action is about to start happening right here. Green, there they go. Let's see what happens in the first few turns as they cannot pass.
Yeah, no passing, and is going to be frustrating for Dustin Glenn as he got a bit of a good jump there at the line. Nicholas Pelly leading him through one of the more difficult corners of this track, although this first time through should be easy enough. They're going a little bit slower into that braking zone. And coming around through Poggio Secco, the passing should be on now, but I don't think they're close enough quite yet to be doing anything. Nick Terrell hounding Dustin Glenn a little bit. Back in the GT3s, a couple change positions. I think that's just from some people who are starting in the pits. So no passes, I think, being made on track yet.
Ooh, looks like Dustin is finally picking up a little pace, making a little gap off of Nick Terrell. You know, Nick was pushing him, and we weren't quite.
Zach Nuremberger and Leonardo Elijah have an incident here. Heading through the left of Luco.
Oh, that was a risky maneuver, and I don't think he's quite seen him outside of his window, and they just connected. A little bit aggressive. That's a rough way to start.
Let's take a look at that again.
Dustin Glenn.
That was Zach Nuremberger on the inside, and yep. Bit of heavy collision. Both drivers being spun around, but I don't think really any damage to either car. So just a bit of a bruised ego as they continue on.
Yeah, hopefully their suspension and all that is fine. It looked like a little minor tap, just more of a time issue. But looking in, Dustin Glenn looks like he is settling in nice to the field, even though he is not familiar with these drivers. We know Nick Terrell was pushing on him, and he's got a little bit of a gap between him and Dustin now, and Dustin is trying to make his way up to Paul Skip. Yeah, that is his next competitor. He's making some waves, so I mean, I don't know if he's going to burn his tires up trying to do that, but we got a lot of laps left.
Yeah, the extra difficult part is also just finding a spot to pass. These GT3s they don't get much of a draft. Down this straight would logically be the best passing opportunity into San Donato, but it awaits to be seen where that popular passing opportunity will be, as we don't really see anyone gaining on anybody yet at this point. We've got a bit of a train going on, and no passes or no moves at all being made in the top 15 of the GT3s.
Like Kevin Berquist is really putting some pressure on Jesse Coffey and the GT3s. They got a string of 6 or 8 cars in a line, all trying to gather position. Kevin Berquist, actually Jesse Coffey in the front of that line. Kevin Berquist behind him. You got Christopher Craig in the Porsche, really making moves. Audrey Garcia staying in line. Travis Rowe, Jack Lucas, James Foreman, Nathan Westland, and Roger Shank all in line. That's impressive, to say at least. They're all hanging around, keeping it in line and putting pressure on one another. There's a lot of racing going on.
Yeah, especially anybody who potentially qualified out of position. It's not going to be easy to pick your way through this field in either class, and we still haven't even got to the lapping events that these GTPs will have to make. But we have a couple close battles there in the GTPs. Nick Terrell keeping it close with Dustin Glenn. Paul Skip not letting Nicholas Paletti go away. Yeah, you can see nothing formulating down into the braking zone. Paul Skip a little bit closer for sure to Nicholas Paletti, but it didn't look like anything offensive was trying to be done there. It's a long race, and like I said, the tires with these curbs, you can see how often they're running over these, really bumpy curbs. They're doing it right there as they do all the braking entries. The tires are going to take some punishment on those.
Yeah, the curbs are really wide here, and they are always on them. You watch them go down that straight right there, and they were on it from the moment it started just to get that advantage. And that advantage is time, but the disadvantage is tire wear.
Kevin Berg was sent into the inside. Here's the move being made.
Here we go.
Not able to get it slowed down, but that was maybe a precursor to a move that we might see him or another driver make coming up soon.
Yeah, we've got a lot of looks between those 3 right there and the 2 behind them, and he's got his eyes on it. We'll see if he can make something happen here. What I see right here is Ken Huber, once again, just comfortable out front. I don't know what he's got, what special sauce, or what kind of contract he has with his gasoline manufacturer, and they just sneaking something by, but he's got something in him that is just bar none. Walking away. Jeff McDonald trying to do anything he can to catch up, and I feel like he's going to burn his tires up.
A couple incidents that we had a little bit recently. Aaron Claybaugh with an incident himself. Just immediately on the turn in there. Maybe the tire's a little bit hot from a spin that we didn't see earlier in that minor collision too. just trying to get out of the middle of the track. And then Greg Holland with an incident of his own as well here in that black Porsche.
Man, he's had a tough season. I know that. And he's trying to keep it together. But ran out. I mean, it is a Porsche. The weight is on the back. And Mugello is a tight track. And right now it's rubbering in. It's heating up. So the track conditions are changing as they really start to get comfortable here running. We're only 4 laps in, but track temp, I'm sure, has risen.
Yeah, that kind of incident there in San Donato is where I saw a lot happen during practice, just washing out wide as it's a little bit tighter, I think, than you expect. And it's just such a long straight, as you can see with Nathan Wesley on board. They hit the braking zone almost to the 100-meter mark. But if you just start to turn in a little too early, you lose that braking efficiency and just shoot out there under that colored runoff.
As always, Mugello never disappoints in the action. A lot of tight places and not a lot of runoff, so you really got to plan it out. You got to make sure you're saving your tires and still be competitive, which is really tough. You can see everybody grouped up. You know, every inch matters here, and if you're grouped up like this, if you let off, you're going to lose positions, but you're also burning your tires. So it's like, where do you make the decision to ease up a little? You know, it's a struggle.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see too. Again, I assume with the amount of off throttle here in this track, we'll see the drivers extend it beyond that halfway point, which if anybody watching last week, I commentated the entire race under the idea that it was 100 minutes like it was in the previous seasons. It's a 90-minute race. So 90 minutes today, just like it was in all the other races recently. It looks like right there behind a move being made by Jay Smart. No, he couldn't quite make it happen there, just showing the difficulty of making the pass. But 90 minutes, so halfway point, 45 minutes. That's what these GT3s are aiming for at least to make that a one-stop game.
And he's just knocking on the door. Oh, he's going in. He's going in. Look at him go. Look at him go. I think he's, well, it's tough to say yet because we're going into the straight, and it's a 0.7 mile long straightaway, and he's got a lot of pull on the outside lane for drag, and inside does not. Jay Smart does not have the draft, so he was trying to make it happen. He's still pushing, but it ain't happened yet.
Yeah,
here he goes into turn 1.
Has to hold the outside. That he made that about as difficult on himself as he could do. Still switchback. Possible. Got to give him room.
He pulled the switchback, but there's 2 more turns to go. Can he make it stick? He did. Look at that. Wow, that was a long racing set, and man, they were both giving it everything they had.
Yeah, that headed all the way from Buccine through San Donato, Luco, Poggioseco into Materassi, and probably not the move that Jay Smart had envisioned when he had made the send there into that last corner, but got it done regardless. Meanwhile, an incident for James Repp at the same time, right behind these guys.
Oh man, wow. Greg Holland just had a quick little side-by-side, and he saved it. He didn't go off track, but he's fighting them tires that, since he already got sideways on them, they're already kind of a little burnt up. So he saved it, but man, he's struggling out there to hold on and stay competitive.
Yeah, these GTPs making their way through the field right now as they've made their way through some of the guys who have had some early incidents, and it's tight.
Greg off track.
Greg losing a couple positions there off track for 8 seconds.
Yeah, he towed, so I think he's going to submit to those tires as being fully spent. Go get some new tires and hopefully maintain and get back out there and pull some laps.
Yeah, right now, Nicholas Paletti defending desperately from Paul Skip, but they are about to come up on a lot of messiness here as they've got through some of the GT3s, but the majority of the field lies right in front of them, and they weren't able to pass a single one down the straight. The most optimal spot that they could try to get around traffic, they didn't get around a single one.
You know, as low drag as they have and as low down they are, I think they do take advantage more so around the turn sectors on the GT3s than potentially the straightaways, as we're seeing right now. You know, this is the short sector, a little bit straightaway. He easily made his way by right there. Nicholas Paletti trying everything he can to stay away from Paul, but Paul is right there. He says, "Nope, I'm here and I'm racing."
Yeah, Paul falling back actually quite a lot here. Now over a second, was nearly 3/10 when they came into this area. Oh, Nicholas Paletti into the sand, had to avoid it. He's going to get past here by Paul Skip. Paul Skip on the right side. That's that black and gold car. Paul Skip to the front.
Man.
Had just experienced some bad luck and was falling into the grasp of Dustin Glenn. And all of a sudden, he's got first place back.
Paul Skip got blocked out too by GT3. They're going through the traffic right now, and they're both experiencing the issues. He almost got re-overtaken, and now they are both neck and neck, making their way around. Wow, this is like I don't know, like trying to find the brown M&M in the whole bag.
Nick Terrell making the move on Dustin Glenn here into four wide into Buccine, and that was a nifty little move to make there. Very opportunistic, and it looks like Dustin Glenn wanting that spot back, but they're now going to all have equal draft here down the straight.
You know, you look at Nick Terrell taking advantage, catching up, as well as newcomer Dustin Glenn right there with him. Who's going to break late? Who's going to stay in? Who's going to get the advantage around this GT3? Looks like, man, I don't know. Looks like Paul Skip is taking advantage, and Nicholas might have not gotten as quickly out of there as he wished.
A lot of these GT3s still left to go. They're coming up on Sheldon Rosenbaum here. So the last 5 GT3s to make their way around. Dustin Glenn on the inside of Nick Terrell here. Nick Terrell having to give him a little bit of space, but not having to defend too much into that corner. Don't think Glenn trying to make too much of a move there. But in the top 11 GT3 spots, still no places swapped.
And that's impressive because we are 8 laps in, and usually you got some kind of shakedown. I'm sorry, I got to go back, man. I can't get over this. Paul Skip is driving that thing like he stole it. He is gone.
He's currently got a 1.2 second lead over Nicholas Paletti, who has to worry a little bit about Nick Terrell behind, who he just gained that position from Dustin Glenn recently. Both guys really staying close. Paul Skip still within touching distance, and now they are in the clean air, so it's all based on pace now at this point. And I think maybe Paletti able to get a little bit of draft, but certainly not as much as Terrell is going to be right here on the back of Paletti's gearbox.
He's trying, though, as is Josh Doty. He's really pushing. He's coming close. He's only 4/10 off.
Nick Terrell thinking about it, shading to the inside, just getting a little bit of clean air there, a little bit of mirror coverage, but no move being made. Meanwhile, Jay Smart making a pass on Travis Rowe further back in the field. I don't think he was even planning on making that spot, but Rowe just going out a little bit wide. Jay Smart taking advantage.
Well, Rowe was staying wide as the GTP ran through, and I think he saw that advantage. He said, "The door's open. I'm just going to follow you through it."
He got another position here just now on Adri Garcia, shooting down into turn 1. That was how I expected most of the moves today to be made. We've seen a little bit more chaos with the lapping traffic, allowing some more opportunistic moves to happen.
He looks like he's driving like he's got something to prove. He's making moves early on. He's made a lot of passes already, and here he comes pushing on Josh Doty.
Travis Rowe and Adri Garcia battling. Garcia temporarily losing that position. For James Foreman, sorry, that is J.J. Garcia in front of those two. Foreman temporarily losing that position, gaining it back there through that complex. And these three all separated by about 2/10 right now.
They are securing themselves in that high tire wear scenario to where once they go for gas, I think those tires are going to be really hurting them. This is one of those tracks that really beats you up on that, like, do you want to go fast or do you want to save tires? You cannot have both.
Yeah, and luckily they don't need to be going a full fuel stint, 1 hour long. Only need to go that 45 minutes, but anything extra beyond that may help with a little bit of overcut. We've seen an overcut be effective in battles so far this season, so we'll see what drivers plan to risk that. But tire wear is something that's got to be on their mind early. I don't think we've seen any major spins or lockups for some of these guys up front, though.
Yeah, I haven't really seen any of that. Luckily, from the GT3s, they're all. I think they learned that you gotta wait till a half race to really start pushing and try and take advantage. But the thing about this track is you can see how tight they are, and usually by lap 10, there's a bigger gap going on between the GT3 class cars, and there's four packers, there's six packers going on right now, and
Oh, Nathan.
when you're in that scenario, you gotta push.
Nathan Westland making a brave move on Travis Rowe there, temporarily losing that spot, getting it back, going a little bit wide, but still maintaining that position. Westland up to 12th. Again, Rowe in A class and Westland in B, with Westland currently third place in the overall standings, but these positions are still worth the same amount of points.
Yeah, Jack Lucas trying to follow up and stay in that train. Looks like he didn't get the perfect exit to one of those turns and immediately lost about point two, which has left him in a draft.
This final sector, one of the most difficult parts, and Westland we've seen defend his positions among many other drivers this season well. Looked through the middle part of this track that it was a little bit hairier. You see almost equally matched there between the two of Westland and Rowe, but able to hold that spot. And a lot of race still left to go, but 11 laps in, we're starting to see some things get shaken out. Still the top 10 for the GT3s in the exact same order as they started.
You know, a lot of times this season we have talked about the car selection between these people. As you can see, it's very Porsche heavy, very Ferrari heavy. And as I can see, there's only a few people with Mercedes. I'm watching Philip Ranier now in the Mercedes as he just got passed by Daniel Barnett in the Porsche. And oh, he's trying to take it back. He might say, "Oh no."
I don't think
That's
Philip Ranier
mine.
lost that spot. He's up 7 from where he started. Started 23rd, now all the way up to 16th with another spot, another notch on the belt there. Nice move, occupying the center of the track, and it looks like he's got that one down.
Yeah. And here comes Rick Hughes in the Lego Porsche. He went on the inside, tried to get on the inside of Daniel Barnett and take advantage. Didn't have the momentum. Looks like he's taking a different line. Might try and get in there now to try and catch up and keep up, but Philip is kind of walking away a little bit from that scenario. So who knows if the Mercedes might have actually been a smarter choice than the Porsche.
Right now, still don't think we've lost anybody from this race with the exception of Ryan Jeevan, who unable to start due to some computer issues. So no major issues. I mean, I didn't expect big crashes here, that's for sure. But mistakes are frequent, and a little quarter spins, stuff like that, and some of these corners, it may start to become a little more common as the race goes on. These tires burn away, but maybe the drivers will become a little bit more relaxed with their take on the track, and it should minimize some of their mistakes. But I guess we'll see. Oh, and the move there made by Josh Doty on Don McCloy down the straight. Must have been some overspeed through Machine, and now Sheldon Rosenbaum threatening Don McCloy as well, as Don McCloy out of the draft.
And is that Jay Smart taking advantage as well?
Sheldon Rosenbaum making the move on Don McCloy into turn one, and McCloy just losing all of that momentum. Maybe had a bad exit through Bicine, but also during that straight, not having any draft really affected him.
Looks like also Rick is now taking advantage, made the pass happen, coming out of that last turn over Daniel Barnett. So they're having a little rigmarole themselves. I don't think Daniel's going to let that slide that easily as they go into turn one. He's going to take a look, but Rick is going to do everything he can to hang on that beautiful Lego Porsche.
We'll say definitely some credit needs to be given to Jay Smart here again because of the graph issue. He's not showing up there in the GTDs. He is in a GTD car. He is up 18 spots from where he started. I said it would be difficult to pick your way through the field if you qualified out of position. Again, in the GT3s, I don't think that he's here scoring 4 points, but up 18 spots in just 13 laps is frankly ludicrous.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You never expect to see those kind of stats pop up, but we're still, we're not even halfway through the season yet, so there's a lot to happen still.
Sheldon Rosenbaum staying close here to Josh Doty, trying to get into that podium position. Again, I believe Sheldon Rosenbaum promoting himself to A-class with that qualifying effort on his debut here today, as well as Mauricio Parada, who is back there in 6th. And this is one of the only spots in the top 10 that has changed positions. Don McCloy, as we saw last lap, losing 2 spots to both Doty and Rosenbaum. And Doty doing well here this season so far. He's currently in the standings, sitting in 13th place, and has missed 2 races as well with only 1 drop week. So as far as actual average amount scored per race, it's done pretty well, especially at Okayama and Willow Springs so far.
We still have some tough races coming up, so he's probably going to be hoping to get in some solid points now. We've had a lot of time. We got 2 weeks of practice here, so it looks like they've tightened up as the other races we've seen. Less incidents so far, but there is still a lot of racing to go. That much is true.
Jack Lucas making a move on Nathan Westland. Westland kind of giving him that spot. I have to imagine had a slowdown there, so I've seen a couple drivers now yielding spots to other drivers. I think that some slowdowns are possible in going a little bit extra wide in some of these corners. I'm not exactly sure which one that may have been. It could have been maybe Borgio San Lorenzo, but I can't tell for sure. Sheldon Rosenbaum close to Josh Doty, and he's making the move. He's on the outside. He's sending it down into Corenteo, and he's got the move made. I didn't expect a lot of passes to be made there. He's healthily ahead now, heading into Buccine. I don't think he'll have to stress too much. 3/10, 4/10. This is such an important corner here to your lap time, though. Because of that on camber, you can really use it to slingshot your way through, but it's so crucial to your lap time. It's that entire straight, which you don't get a lot of straights on this track.
I will say the straightaway, the longest straight here is 0.7 miles, and this is a relatively long track, and that is considerable straightaway. But you also have to look at how skinny the track is. There's not a lot of advantage to try and run it wide or dive on the inside, because there's not a lot of room to move going into turn 1 at all. So you have to really take advantage in the turns, I think, here.
Room being made there for these 2 GTPs battling. This is Nicholas Paletti and Dustin Glenn right now fighting for that 3rd place spot. Paul Skip's still in 1st with Nick Terrell in 2nd, and they're not really pulling away. It's kind of remained stagnant as they are now making their way through this 2nd set of traffic events. It's a little bit more spread out for him.
Here he goes. Look at him go. Oh, Dustin got blocked by the GT3. There he goes. He had a chance there to make the move based on the traffic. That was going to be incredible to see.
Jay Smart with another gained position on Mauricio Parada here from way back, sending it on. And yeah, it looks like a little bit wide for Parada as well, so making that move extra easy for him.
He's been making a lot of moves today. I know he's really pushing. He wants to really make it happen today. I think he's done a lot of practice, and he's got a lot to prove today.
Listen, Glenn here on his debut, only Cadillac runner, running quite well, currently in 4th. He's down 1, but he's as far as how this GTP class has been running, he's just 2-3 seconds off the lead right now. It's really anybody's game, but the move has to be made. That's what we've seen so far with these, with really both classes, is that maybe they can stay close, but actually making the pass is proving quite difficult.
You got Don McCloy just behind him. Once again, Jay Smart. He's like the shark. He's like out to get all the minnows. He's driving that little
and a
purple creature,
right in front. That was Jeff McDonald in 2nd place, spinning right in front of Dustin Glenn. Jeff McDonald surely with a little bit of damage and struggling to get it going again.
Was there contact?
Yeah, there was damage to the car as he's missing his entire rear wing there, and he's having to tow. Jeff McDonald from 2nd place now to the pits. Sheldon Rosenbaum being promoted to 2nd place here on his debut.
Wow, that is insane. You would have seen that this early. You never would have thought that kind of incident would happen. But like I said, skinny track, a lot of traffic, so it's all about breaking points and anticipating where those people are going to be. And that could have been where the this had happened. Oh, it looks like he got a little loose, hitting the brakes a little hard, maybe.
See here into turn one. This is into San Donato. Doesn't look like anything too. He just trying to take that outside line. Just already started spinning. No contact before the spin started happening.
Maybe he hadn't practiced the outside line of of that turn, I guess. And the telemetry and the physics of the concentric forces, and he wasn't used to it, and there went the back end. Luckily, no contact on his part. It's just he lost it, but unfortunately, that means time and spaces for other drivers as well.
And Nick Terrell at one point there, a few tenths back from Paul Skip, now grown to about a second as they're in that clean air. And Dustin Glenn clearly losing out in that ordeal with that contact that he had with Jeff McDonald. He is now 6 seconds back from Nicholas Paletti. What was a really close battle, unfortunately getting broken up due to that incident. I don't know if he has any visible damage. I mean, it was a big enough hit to take. Yeah, it was a big enough hit to take the rear wing off of Jeff McDonald's car. But I think Dustin Glenn's car looks to be in all right shape.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The rear end looks perfectly fine. The front end has little scuffies, but I don't think there's any actual aero damage. I think he's all right as far as lap times are concerned. He just needs to get the pedal to the metal, get back in the game, because this is his debut race and he's trying to make waves, and I'm sure he's really bummed about it right now and doing everything he can to put some hot times in.
Waiting to see if Jeff McDonald does rejoin this race or not. He's currently still in the pits, although I think that with this amount of time still could be that tow. He did obviously have to tow all the way from essentially turn one to the end of the lap, so we'll wait to see if he's able to rejoin here. He does have some fast repairs, but it sometimes can be hard to swallow that, because he's gone back from second now to 21st, unfortunately.
That is definitely a tough pill to swallow. Speaking of place changes from the start, Philip Ranieri has gained 8 positions from the start, which is the most significant one. Also, Zach Nuremberger is up 5 positions from the start. Everybody else pretty much is one. Actually, most of them are 1 position different. So there hasn't been a lot of place changing, except for the minor incidents and also Jay Smart taking rain out, but for the most part, everybody's been keeping it pretty cool.
Adri Garcia making the move on Christopher Craig here. On the outside, looks like he has a lot of overspeed, but it's evenly matched into turn one. Deeper on the brakes for Adri Garcia. He's going to have to
he's not gonna make
switch back, and I just don't think he has the room here.
Yeah, he knew he wasn't going to make it, and he backed off and let them in minimum range so that he could set up and hopefully get it in these S's. Early setup for another go at it.
No move means being made done there.
It's maybe an if, or it's a win, not a if. You know what I mean? He's looking for the right time.
And meanwhile, we have, for the most of the field, starting to grow out a little bit. We have some close battles, just a few right now in that GT3 field, but most guys starting to separate to that 1.5, 2.5 kind of gap where they're not really threatening each other too much. They're certainly aware of each other's presence, and the pace is on each other's minds absolutely throughout this entire race. No one's that safe. But
Sure.
Ken Huber is the safest of the bunch currently, with nearly a 6-second lead on Sheldon Rosenbaum.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. I think he's got that streak going on. Man, I really want to look at Sheldon Rosenbaum right now. I don't know what painter he has commissioned to make this paint job. It looks like he's driving a Tron car. It's beautiful Ferrari.
Yeah, I brought
He's sitting back.
fun attention to that during practice. I'm a big fan of it.
It's insane. It looks crazy. And the new updates with trading paints and whatnot, I guess, are nuts. Right now, Jay Smart is trying to catch up to him, and here he's not quite ready to make the move just yet. Oh, we got a spin with Jesse Coffey. Uh-oh.
Aaron Puccini
He
losing
saved
a
it.
spot.
He saved it, but he's going to lose positions for sure. That sucks.
Yeah, worst corner to make a spin as well. Is that's the one that sets you up for that long straight. So not just suffering through that corner and the amount of time off track, but suffering down the entire straight as well, as he is now down to 9th place, but keeping it close with AJ Garcia.
Oh, well, we got another off track here with Zachary Nurberger. He just had to wait for the pack to go. It looks like he just got loose on the exit and just slid to a stop sideways. And as he
there was a
joined
collision with Paul Skip
now,
there. That was in the middle of Buccini. There was a collision with the GTP of Paul Skip. I really feel like Nuremberger gave enough room on the inside there, but a little bit of a shunt sent him sideways.
Let me take a look back and see if I can see exactly how that happened.
This already close battle between Christopher Craig and AJ Garcia now made a little more interesting with the introduction of Jesse Coffey here on the back. Coffey having a good season.
Looks like Paul Skip actually got a little loose going in the exit. Looks like he might have gone on the throttle a little early and cut in a little bit directly into the path of Zachary Nuremberger.
Terrell here with some net code, and that was Philip Rainieri off into the middle of nowhere. Nick Terrell into the sand. I don't think major damage there. The cars really got sucked in together.
Wow.
But they were really close before that net code even started to affect them.
Man, I'll say this. There's been a lot more GTP mishaps than there have been GT3s. And I'm thinking it might be due to the fact that they have so much power. They're trying to come out of these turns, going around traffic on the outside, on the cool side of the track. You know, they're not in that hot lane, and they just get loose.
Dustin Glenn making this strategy decision to pit basically right there at that 30-minute mark. Again, we saw the GTPs in the last race able to stretch it to a one-stopper. It was very, very close for them. But here, if the two-stop is the strategy, you would think this would be the optimal thing, because if the tires do give out that fast, you'll probably want fresh tires, but it looks like a bit of a long stop here for Dustin Glenn.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably getting some repairs, as he did have contact.
Well, they have the fast repairs, two of them, so.
Well, that's curious. Like, I don't know why he wouldn't use the fast repair. That is a long pit stop for him. But yes, you're right. You know, I'm thinking about the two-stop strategy. If you do 2 30-minute stints per pit stop, that's 30 minutes per tire. And if you just burn them up and you just go Hoss to the wall, you know, and burn those tires up and just get the next set on, If you can make that advantage work for you, then great. But if you're having that
and a spin by Garcia
stop,
there, right there in Corinteo, we've seen a couple incidents able to avoid any crashes there, luckily.
Yeah, if you're having that long pit stop, you're not going to take advantage on that two-stopper. But it looks like GT3s are also starting to suffer from some tire wear, and probably also a very hot track, as they have been very tight. There's not a lot of gap between a lot of cars, so that thing's been heating up.
Track tip action only at 26 degrees Celsius right now. It's pretty cool, so it could be a lot worse for them. As a bit of friendly track conditions, but the track itself not very friendly.
Yeah, that's interesting. You would think the way that it's acting, it would have a lot to do with a hot track, but maybe it's not having a chance to heat up.
We are definitely seeing these GT3s get a little more squirrely, a little more pushy in some of these corners. We're seeing a lot of those tire tracks out there in the sand as drivers are struggling to keep it pinned inside the track limits, and I don't think the track limits will be enough of a problem that a lot of people will be getting penalties here today, but we may see some people losing some bonus points as they really struggle to keep their car on the surface.
For sure, there's been a decent amount of off tracks, a decent amount of people sliding out, so those are the extra points. If you can keep it safe and sane, those extra points, if you can do that every week after week, you know, that's really going to put you up in a better position for the championship. Watching Roger Schenck now doing everything he can to catch up to Nathan Westland in P19. Well, that's P19 overall. They'll be 13th for the GT3s. He's trying. He's got about 1.3 seconds. That is a little bit big of a gap, but as we see the GTPs come in, it's always going to shake it up. So I am keeping an eye on those two.
Jack Lucas making it interesting here in the end of the lap. Nearly made Travis Rowe take an alternate line there through the chicane of Biandetti. It didn't have to, but I'm interested to see if he's got that tire life in him to make a move here into turn one. Looks like both drivers going pretty quick through the final corner, Guccina.
And I think Travis Rowe is definitely playing it more or less safe, whereas Jack Lucas is trying to push. Maybe they're coming in on the tire window for themselves.
Around the outside.
And,
with John Kelly involved as well. And yeah, Jack Lucas, I think, probably wanting to push out a little bit further, but unable to with the car of John Kelly there. We'll have to wait for another lap.
And I saw Rowe get just the slightest bit of loose, and I knew Jack Lucas was loving to see that. That's why he is right on the bumper of him right now. Trying, not gonna take that. Oh, wait, here goes. He's pushing. Don't think it's gonna make it happen, but he's saying, I'm here.
Trying to take advantage of any accidents that Rowe might make here. Again, accident prone as we continue to go through this stint for all these GT3s. Looks like a little bit wide for Travis Rowe. I think keeping it inside those limits enough to not lose too much speed, though.
It's nuts when you see all these races, whatever, on TV, and as we're doing right now. But it's a different thing when you get in an in-car perspective. You really see how skinny this track is and what these drivers have to deal with for an hour and a half. And it is just impressive that any of them can keep it on track at the speeds that they are.
I think we have lost Dustin Glenn from this race, still in his pit box. So I don't know exactly what happened. It didn't look like he was involved in that wreck that Nick Terrell was involved in. I mean, didn't look like any damage on the car, but it seems like he's out of this race here, unfortunately, on his debut. Had a good run there early, vying for that top spot.
Yeah, that is curious because we didn't really see anything catastrophic happen to him. So I'm wondering if it's hardware based or just something personal that he's got going on at home or something.
Jack Lucas making
we'll hopefully find out.
Pass attempt. Travis Rowe definitely wants the inside here, and he's forcing Lucas around the outside. It's looking like it's not going to work out for him again. That was a closer attempt, probably more what Lucas was trying to do last lap had John Kelly not been there. But Travis Rowe understanding that inside is going to be what provides him the most success, and he did not let Lucas get any inside of him.
He's not going to give any opportunity to anybody if he doesn't have to. Jack Lucas, as we have seen, is a pretty aggressive driver. He's had some shortcomings for that aggression, but sometimes that aggression can sit right and connect just in the right way. And if you make that pass, it was all worth it.
Jack Lucas currently sitting in 12th overall, 5th place in the B class, just 32 points off the lead with one missed race accounted for in there. So again, we do have one dropped week, so anyone who's only missed one race is not in too bad of a situation, but we will have more drops as we continue through this season. And he's having a decent race here today.
Here he goes on the outside. He's looking. I don't know if it's going to make it happen. Not quite.
That's bringing Adri Garcia into the fray right now. I think Lucas may be just a little bit more pace than Rowe right now, but not enough to get around. And Garcia is hounding them behind, as now about 3 tenths between both of them. Garcia really flying up to the back of this pack. And Lucas is going to need to make a move soon, or he's going to threaten. No, that's his move. He's going into the pits.
Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. His move is the undercut. So is he doing two-stop? Or is he going for that long stint?
To me, based on the cadence of what we've seen from previous races, I have to think that he's doing a short stint here at the start, and it's just a one-stop race. He's confident he's able to make it to the end. We normally see people take that long stint at the front, but if he was struggling to get around Rowe like we saw, and was even also threatened by Adri Garcia coming up behind, I think that's a pretty sound strategy call.
I think you're exactly right on that. And I would probably make the exact same call because you got to look. We're at the 39.5-minute mark out of an hour-and-a-half race. We are nearly 5 minutes from the halfway mark. So I would say, he could definitely do another 10 minutes on those current tires. He was still looking competitive. So the over under on that is he's going to take the long run and hope that people really burn their tires up now and lose time before they get their set in 2 to 5 laps time.
Yeah, halfway point they'll be hitting around in a few laps. Probably imagine a good number of guys trying to stretch it as long as they can. And we saw at Okayama, a drivers able to go almost, I think, close to 55 minutes. So this one's, to me, seems like less throttle on than Okayama. A lot of chicanes that they have to weave their way through, trying not to spurt too much gas through there, and it could be a similar amount of length for maximum possible stint.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. They're staying in high gear going around these turns to minimize the gear shifts, to minimize that time off throttle. But when they are on throttle, they're probably not going more than 50% through a lot of it. And there's a lot of coasting going in and around, especially through the chicanes. So they're very gas conscious. I don't think gas tank is the worry here. I don't think hardly any of them have even looked at the gas remaining. It's more about the tire feel. And if I hit that half pace mark, I'm going to get the tires and we're going to push.
This is Mauricio Parada here, again on his debut. Two debuted guys in, again, showing up as B class here. I believe qualifying high enough to be A class for both him and Sheldon Rosenbaum, but both in that Ferrari as well, which again, we saw some people use at the start of the season and then its popularity kind of fell off. A lot of people kind of frustrated with it, but it seems to be working pretty well here today. I mean, I think we have 5 Ferraris there in the top 10 or 11.
Yeah, we do. We've always had a decent amount of Ferraris. Obviously, the Porsche is one of the favorites. But, it's funny. We always seen Ken Huber in the Lamborghini. And mistake me if I'm wrong, but is he in a Porsche tonight?
No, Ken Huber's in the Lamborghini, and I think he's the only driver in the Lamborghini. Decided just at random to pick the Lamborghini starting this season. Had no rhyme or reason. Was not catering it to the tracks on the schedule or anything. Just picked a random one and was like, I'm just going to use this for every race.
Well, I've driven it, and it is really great around the turns. It does seem to be a little lacking in the straightaways, but it doesn't seem to matter. And it seems that a lot of other people who drive it or have driven in the past have not have as great a success as Ken has.
Adri Garcia was about a second one lap ago, now down to a tenth and a half behind Travis Rowe. Gonna try to shade inside. Rowe giving him the inside, letting him have it, opening the door a little bit. It's what he really, struggled or worked to close against Jack Lucas, and you could see why he did it, because with that inside line, Garcia able to get the spot.
Yeah, and I think Travis just wanted to play it safe. He said, you're coming in hot. You're going in for the dive, and I don't want to get into an incident at only half of the race left. We don't want to have that. I don't want any of us to have to go and get some damage. He said, go ahead, go around. Maybe I can get the position back here in the next lap or two, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it was really good work for Travis Rowe and his defense for most of that there, and especially defending the inside line seemed to work really well for him. I wonder if he was just worried about trying the same move too many times, getting predictable for the guy behind, and kind of fall asleep.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to show everybody your whole hand, and if you only have one move and they're gonna be like, okay, well, we do 2 or 3 laps of this. I see exactly where you dive in, where you slow down early. Ooh, and Aaron Clayball outside. But yeah, eventually they're going to make a move based on your actions. So you don't want to take the same line if you got the same person following you multiple laps.
Closing in on the halfway point. Still, almost every GT3 driver still yet to come in. We saw Jack Lucas come in earlier. We've had a couple drivers come in for some damage on a Philip Ranieri head to toe to the pits. So that's why he's in the position he's in. But for the most part, everybody's still out doing that first stint. And for the GTPs, we have Paul Skip coming in right now. Nick Terrell will inherit the lead, but it was a 17-second gap before this pit stop.
Yeah, the gaps with the pit stops is going to definitely pull a little shake up, because I think some people are not going to be used to coming into the pit lane, and they're going to have to slow down and get it right. And it's been so tight. There hasn't been a whole lot of extremely big gaps that these guys are fighting for every inch. And if you don't get that pit lane speed right, you slow down too much too early, boom, they're right on your bumper right there. And you just lost 2/10. So could see some interesting times and interesting packs come out of the pit lane and a whole pit stop shakedown.
Interesting being on board here with Parada. Just feels like even more off throttle than what was happening earlier in this race. And I don't think it's due to fuel management. I think the car's just struggling to stick to the road a little bit because through some of those corners, there was a lot of letting off as they got their way through the curbs and through the curves. And it just looks like it's a difficult drive out there right now, but everyone's handling it pretty well mistake-free.
Yeah, you got to wonder how hot those brakes are too on all these cars, because there's a lot of turn sectors and there's a lot of hard on the brakes, especially after that 0.7 mile straightaway they're running down right here. They're going to be mashing that thing, and it's going to get up to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's a lot. And they're going to get brake fade eventually. So, I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it.
Nick Terrell 1 lap longer than Paul Skip. He's now into the pit lane. So Nicholas Paletti. Oh, and there he is. That hitting that curb just like we saw Aaron Clayball. Wonderful save for Parada, but that's Aaron Clayball right there behind him as well. So the driver that just had that happen a couple laps ago, seeing the same thing happen to Mauricio Parada in front of him. These two not battling for position currently.
And Parada just getting his tail feathers out, and he's just wagging it, just showing everybody he is here to race. Right now, Jesse Coffee putting the pressure on. Look at him go.
Yeah, Coffee trying to recover after that earlier incident that lost him a few spots, and trying to make his way back up to where he qualified in 7th to make his way around Christopher Craig.
He's definitely trying to make something happen here. It's got a lot of opportunity, but I think he's still sitting back, still waiting for the right opportunity.
Yeah, making the pass would be nice, but the thing that he's most focused on is what's behind him. James Foreman 1.7 seconds behind, and that is the guy who has a 1-point advantage on him in the overall standings, with a 2:14 on the season for Foreman and 2:13 for Jesse Coffey. So both drivers having competed in all races so far this season. They both had a drop week applied, and Coffey was the leader for GT3B for the last, I think, 4 weeks, and just now lost that lead to James Foreman. So he's going to be very keen on keeping Foreman behind him in this race.
Absolutely, he will. I mean, it's really close between them, so every position counts. All the bonus and also safety incident points bonuses will absolutely come into play as each race unfolds.
Yeah, and both drivers have really evenly matched each other in that category as well. Last race in Fuji, both 4 points. Willow Springs, both 4 points. Okayama, both 5 points. And that first week, both 4 points for Daytona. And Sebring, it was 3 and 4. The big difference is Jesse Coffey, no safety points for Indy Road Course. I believe we saw him in a wreck with Dennis Diaz at the start of the race and did not finish, with James Foreman coming away with 4 bonus points for that. And that's really what's made the difference in this championship battle between these two.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got James Foreman here still in contention with the pack, trying to catch up to Jesse Coffey. He's not terribly far back. He's only, 1.3 seconds. So he can definitely make it. He can definitely make it back up and stay in contention to try and get some points and maybe make it past in the future, especially if they get tangled up in front of him as they try and pass one another. You know how it can be trying to pass people, and that's not going to be your fastest lap if you're pulling all kinds of maneuvers and whatnot. I think Foreman is hoping for that kind of action so he can catch up and make some moves himself.
So you can see there how many stops we've got from all these drivers. GTPs with everyone minus Jay Smart. They have made their one stop, which might take them, well, at least Dustin Glenn's wasn't. And Dustin Glenn on the pit exit now, so he is rejoining 7 laps down. I don't know, maybe a hardware issue that he had to sort out. For the GT3s, about half the field having made their pit stop already, with still a lot, especially a lot of the guys up at the front, Huber, Rosenbaum, Doty, etc., still needing to come in.
Yeah, the pit stops are interesting because you look, if we're halfway past, it's obvious that you could go in at the halfway mark, get them tires, and know that you still have time on them tires. But I think you look at the top of the GT3s, and all of them are waiting. All of them are waiting. And I think what that means is they're getting every inch out of those tires. While they still have some competitive nature in them, they're all going to come in at once, I think, within 2-3 laps of each other. And that means they got fresh tires, and they're going to be putting in qualifying laps till the end. So I don't think we've even begun to see the action today, even though we're over halfway.
Well, Dan Barnett coming into the pits right now. James Foreman and Jesse Coffey coming in on this previous lap. And it looks like they are still in the same order, but James Foreman has closed the gap. It was about a second and a half between the two coming into the pits, now down to 6 or 7 tenths. So some time gained on his championship arrival there for James Foreman.
And maybe they will be the beginning of the trend to go into the pits. We'll see what happens with the rest of the field as they come in. There's only 7 drivers in the GT3s, 8 drivers. Well, I guess Jay Smart is in now, so 7 drivers who have not come in yet.
Ken Huber and Sheldon Rosenbaum both making their pit stops. Josh Doty staying out, so he inherits the lead here for now.
So they started the trend, and now we're going to see probably some very hot laps out of the top of the GT3 field.
Don McCloy, Kevin Berquist also staying out. So of the drivers who had not yet pit, getting only 2 of them. We got Christopher Craig in the pits as well. So about half the guys who had yet to stop coming in. Still some guys able to stretch it a little bit longer, and will make their last stint a lot easier. Once we come to the twilight hours of this race, they'll have a lot more life left in those tires. It's just if it's the strategy call, if they have enough tires on right now for it to be worth sticking out on.
Yeah, I think Roger Shank made a mistake. I think he missed the opportunity when everybody came in. He's one of the last to go into the pit lane. And he's currently in 3rd in his class in the GT3s, and he's in the pit lane now. But I think if he had gone into the pit lane the previous lap, he would not be going down the field right now. So I think he's hitting himself in the head right now on that. But he's probably going to get back out and push as hard as he can. Like I said, putting in quality laps till the end.
Adrian Garcia right now in 11th place, gets a spot on Christopher Craig coming out of the pits. Now up to 10th, trying to get to 9th with James Foreman there. James Foreman not wanting to get up any ground. He's completely focused on Jesse Coffey in front, but Garcia is plenty fast right now. Both drivers in that Ferrari right now.
Looking at Adrian Garcia, he is in P4 of his class right now. Followed up right now by Ken Huber, but we also have Don McCloy and Josh Doty who have not pit. They are going to the pit lane right now. But you look at that, and I wonder if Audrey can make it back out into P2 before Doty or McCloy.
Adri going quite wide there, and lucky to keep it on the track going forward.
Well, he's going to have to stay on track if he wants to make it potentially into P2 behind Ken Huber.
Yeah, you can see that lost him just a few tenths there, I think, and now about evenly spaced between the drivers in front and behind.
That might have cost him. He might be instead of P2, might be P4 now. So we'll see how it happens when Don and Doty come out of the pits. Doty is exiting now.
And Rosenbaum was 2nd place before the pit cycle, and yes, he has reclaimed 2nd place. Not that far ahead of Josh Doty. Josh Doty just a couple seconds back, and with the later pit, maybe better tires come the end of the race. But this outlap is definitely crucial to getting the tires back in their window, and it is not easy on cold tires, especially on this track.
Well, if you look at the field, I think he is rather lucky, as he doesn't have a lot of other drivers around him, especially the GT3s, how they bunch up. He's got open window where he can go wide if he wants. He can warm his tires up how he would probably want to instead of having to deal with traffic or being a racing scenario straight out the pit exit.
With our pits being done and being past the halfway point, we will take a few-minute break, and we will be right back with you. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes. We are back, and we have Paul Skip back to the front of the field again. Was temporarily a little bit behind Nick Paletti, but Paletti making a second stop already. So he has completed his pit strategy, and we'll have to see if Skip intends on coming in himself soon, or if he's going to try for a one-stop. Again, we saw the one-stop for the GTPs be the successful strategy last race 2 weeks ago in Fuji, and it was a bit of a surprise that ended up happening, but we'll see if that's capable here today. You can see the graphics correctly updated to show Jay Smart there. So Jay Smart, after starting, I think actually second to last, starting second to last, Jay Smart now up 22 spots to second place. Again, not being scored for points. Sheldon Rosenbaum still your second place driver in the points, but still, what a showing of skill there for Jay Smart to just carve his way through the field. And Adrian Garcia trying to get to James Foreman here. James Foreman had been chasing Jesse Coffey for a while. Coffey's still there, I mean, visible in the front of the camera, but really more under threat, I think, from behind right now than able to get up another spot. As they swing their way through Buccine, and it looks about equal, but it just seems like Foreman continuing to slip back a little bit from Jesse Coffey, and more than the issue of him losing a spot, or him not being able to gain that spot potentially, he's losing that draft as well. I mean, the draft could be definitely a lot stronger in the GT3s, but you can see the effect it's having as Adrian Garcia able to send it down the inside. We've seen some bold moves from Garcia today, and he has made another one on the inside of San Donato. I thought that was maybe for a second there James Foreman fighting back, but a little bit of tire squeal for Adrian Garcia as really struggling to keep the car in the limits there. You can just see how much kind of stress that braking, hard braking passing zone can really have on the tires when you're trying to take it as aggressive as possible. They do take it differently when they're trying to make a move than when they normally do during this lap. Did have an incident for Dustin Glenn a little bit ago. Looks like maybe just thrown off his normal line with the GT3 there and just sending it a little bit fast, but no damage being done to his car. Here was the move where Paul Skip officially made his way past Nicholas Paletti, who Paletti has now come in for a second pit. So Skip closed down a gap and swung his way around, and Paletti not really fighting that one too hard in that position. So Adrian Garcia past James Foreman. James Foreman still trying to cling on here. Less than a second back, but it is continuing to grow. So we'll see what happens down this straight. And you have to wonder, too, if Garcia is able to get up to Jesse Coffey. I mean, at this point, if Foreman doesn't think that he's going to be able to get back past around Garcia, I mean, that's going to be what he wants to happen, is at least bring Jesse Coffey down one more spot so that they're next to each other again. And it looks like Nicholas Paletti has had an incident there in San Donato. Unforced error as the tires just gave up on him there, pushing out wide, and no one affected by that, it doesn't look like. Maybe these GT3s a little bit, you have to stay out wide. It's Jeff McDonald and Aaron Claybaugh, who both drivers who have unfortunately not had their favorite races. Luckily, we do have McDonald still in this race, and he is fighting for position on Aaron Claybaugh right now, trying to get up to 19th overall. Westland not into the pits. Pinging him as going to the pits. I guess not. Everyone should be done in the GT3s with their pit strategy. We might see a little bit more from the prototypes there at the front. We don't have very many close gaps in the GTP class, that is for sure. Right now, Paul Skip with a 12-second lead on Nick Terrell, who is 40 seconds ahead of Nicholas Paletti, 8 seconds ahead of John Kelly, with Dustin Glenn 5 laps back. So, unfortunately, again, it'd be nice to have Ryan Jeevan here to bulk out that competition, but again, struggling with some computer issues. But impressive showing here. Again, Jay Smart showing what the capability that he has in this GT3 class, because Ken Huber has I mean, for all intents and purposes, outside of some close battles that we saw with Eric Bellata, who, and most of those battles ended up at the very end of the race going Ken Huber's way, especially through the pit stops, and a close battle for most of the race we saw with Chris Thacker a couple weeks ago in Fuji. There's really been nobody that's been able to compete with Ken Huber here against Sheldon Rosenbaum here on a debut, new driver. He's 21 seconds off of this pairing right here. So to have anyone even in the stratosphere of Ken Huber right now is quite impressive. And I don't think Jay Smart trying to do anything too much as far as stress Ken Huber out, but he's just having his fun being able to participate in this race here. Jeff McDonald just passed Aaron Clabaugh for that spot in the P19.
I'm back. Sorry, I had to take a phone call.
All right. No problem. Jeff McDonald making the move into P19, trying to claw back some spots after that tow that he had to have from what seemed like a pretty minor incident, but it ended up taking off that entire rear wing and just wasn't able to make it back to the pits.
And that Sheldon Rosenbaum just made a move, I mean, on a lap car of Danielle Barnett, but he is steadily making his way. He's been very active today in this race. He's not taking any prisoners.
They're all trying to fight back for this spot. Does seem like maybe McDonald's starting to pull away a little bit. It's about to get to that 1 second mark. See, Adrian Garcia has definitely closed down the gap to Jesse Coffey here. Foreman's starting to fall away behind, already 2.5 seconds, and just seems like this portion of the race is really going Garcia's way, who had the earlier incident and trying to get back some spots up to 9th, and that's up 1 from where he qualified as well.
I mean, that's very respectable for sure. Absolutely. Jay Smart here is putting the pressure on Ken Huber. I don't think Ken Huber's had this kind of pressure on him all season. And I don't know if that pit stop shakeup had anything to do with it, but he's right there behind him looking for a window.
Yeah, Smart actually there the whole time. He's been there in second for a good while. Just the graphic not correctly showing where he was at in the race. I don't think he's trying to do anything too rash with Ken Huber, knowing that he's not scored for points here today. But it is interesting to see that. Again, we haven't really seen Ken Huber, I think, stressed too much from behind, because despite the fact that he has a commanding lead on the championship, he's actually spent a good amount of the races, at least for the first half of the races, usually in second or third place, something like that, where he's just biding his time and planning out a strategy, and then that pit happens, and all of a sudden he's 5 seconds ahead of everybody, and he flies away at that point.
Yeah, that is absolutely true, and that's a good a strategy for most. It looks like Jay Smart's trying to make the move right here on Ken. As he does, Ken backs off early to let him have it. But watching them, I think Ken Huber's concerned. He said, this used to be a walk in the park. Now I got someone to contend with, even if it's not for championship points. They're still racing. So I think he might actually be enjoying it. Finally have someone to try and squeeze his way around with, Yeah,
he's done a lot of chasing this season, so does have some experience with that, which usually comes out on top. So, but with no pit stops left, that's been his magic so far this season, has been in that pit stop, and that is already done for all these GT3s at least. Unless something really bad goes wrong and they didn't plan their fuel right, They're all done.
Yeah, I'm seeing exactly what you're seeing right now. Nathan Westland really putting the pressure right here on Roger Shank. They are both fighting for that P18 position. And P18 might sound low, but every position counts and every point counts in this series. And we're not even a halfway point yet. We're approaching it. We're not there yet.
Yep.
So they're trying to get everything they can.
That's P18 overall, P14 for
Overall,
and
yeah,
really
overall.
P13 if you take out Jay Smart as well. So yeah,
that is true.
Yeah, about midway through that field right now, and Nathan Westland trying to take the inside. Not often have we seen it work here, because you lose that extra slingshot, and he's going to have to swing back out behind Roger Shank with a little bit of lost momentum. I don't know if he'll try that move again.
Yeah, you really need that exit momentum. You need to be on that throttle as soon as possible, because this is the longest straightaway on the tracks, 0.7 miles. And if you don't have that big momentum out, then you're never going to make that pass secure. So I don't think it's a good opportunity to pass. It's definitely an opportunity to get yourself shaped up to pass within some of these tight turns like we're seeing right here as they're staying close. But, for the most part, we've seen a lot more passing happen in the tighter chicane turns than we have anywhere else.
Right now, trying to keep up with Roger Shank is that was Nicholas Paletti making his way through there, currently in third place for the GTPs. And Nick Terrell has brought the gap to Paul Skip down to 8 seconds. Again, still interested to see if they actually take it to the end of this race or not. The actual pit lap for these guys is shown there. So lap 28 and 29 respectively. So it's been a good amount. It's been about 20 laps since that point. They certainly can go longer. I think that they're probably trying to stretch it to the end of this race. Is how it looks like it's shaping up.
Well, they're going to have to if they want to be competitive. That's just the way that the strategy has shaped up to be at this point in the race. And let's see, Jesse Coffey is still getting the pressure off from Audrey, obviously, but they are catching up quite nice to Aaron Clayball. Aaron is definitely he's been trying to walk away from him, but it has not been happening as of recently. They are not far between each other. Audrey is looking right now for an open window. And if he can make that happen, then he's got a clear look at making a move on Clayball, which is not for position, but when you're on track, any traffic is something to contend with and get you ahead.
Yeah, Adrian Garcia has definitely been chipping away at that gap right now from Jesse Coffey. Currently also Rick Hughes trying to get a spot on Zach Nurnberger, who after an unfortunate early incident, actually on lap 1, with Kevin Bergquist, is now up 6 spots from where he started back in 22nd. So making some improvements with Rick Hughes, definitely trying to make the move happen there, but just wasn't able to be strong enough on the brakes.
I will say this is one of the strongest showings we've seen from Rick Hughes all season. And he's had some struggles in the beginning, with off tracks and minor, taps that get you spun out and all that. So it's good to see him out here pushing, even if it's a little lower in the field, but he's definitely still got the competitive spirit in that beautiful Lego car. I don't know about you, but I've got a little bit of a Lego obsession. I've built the McLaren F1, I've got the NASCAR and whatnot, and a few other of the small Speed Champions ones. So I love seeing that Lego livery on that car.
Garcia sending down the inside, and that is being made on the inside again by Garcia. Garcia just racking up moves on the inside of San Donato, and another one completed.
Yeah, he's been eyeing it for a bit. When we've been watching him, just waiting for the time that he would make the move, and there it went. So next up. He's got a little bit of push to get up there, but once he's released, he's released.
15 minutes to go in this race, and he's now made his way up to 8th place. Still, those 6 seconds to Mauricio Parada ahead is definitely a tough ask. I think it's going to require some mistakes from Parada, but anything can happen late in this race. Nathan Westland making the move on Roger Shank, and they're still battling down in the turn 1. So Nathan Westland unable to make the move earlier. Had it down the straight here, going extra wide. He is not going to be able to make that pass happen, and yeah, he's losing out here.
And Shank is in the Audi as well, which is a highly undriven car here. As we all well know, it has had many failures in the past, but it looks like he's making it work for him right now. At least he's hoping to hold on. He's got Dustin in the rear view trying to get Pie in the GTP. And Dustin, glad to see him back on track. I don't know what happened to him when he was in the pits for so long, but I'm sure it was something with home life or something like that, or maybe a technical issue. He had to restart. Who knows? But good to see him back on track.
Shank able to make that stout defense. We saw Westland try it in Buccine earlier, a few laps ago. Wasn't able to make that happen. It looks like he had even the advantage going down the straight that time, but again, trying to complete the move on the outside it's possible, but it's proven to be pretty difficult, and Shank took that defensive inside pretty early, I think, in that straight.
Yeah, and I think the driving styles that you need to drive the two different cars. I think they both drive very differently. So when you're looking for advantage in the Porsche to go maybe a little outside and then catch the traction and go full throttle out, I think it's a different shape than the Audi, and I think that's where he's really finding that struggle point to find a window open. That Audi has had struggles, but today he's making it work. He's not giving him a window open.
Yeah, Westland attempting a little bit of a pass there, and Puccini again. Wasn't any room to make it happen. Down to turn one. Looks like, so that, with the lapped traffic of both J Smart and Paul Skip coming through, looks like Nathan Westland using that opportunity to let him by and catch up a little bit later.
And I mean, we've seen a lot of that today where people take opportunities to pass in the GT3 class when they follow the GTPs through. Say somebody, opens up, takes the wide line around the turn, and then all of a sudden there's a window open, so they follow through there. We've seen many passes happen just like that today. Looking at Josh Doty, he is not far away from Sheldon Rosenbaum. He's only about 0.7 seconds, and as we come into the closing laps, I think he's potentially going to be looking to make a tough move on Rosenbaum.
Yeah, the scoring podium seems to be pretty well secured of Huber, Rosenbaum, and Doty for the GT3s, but the order of second and third is definitely up for grabs right now. Doty hanging around that near 1 second mark for a few laps here, and we'll be looking to try to close that and make some attacks here at the end, but we'll see if either driver has the juice left in them to either make an attack or make the defense.
Yeah, we're at that point right now where we're going to see what really happened with all the cars' tire strategy. Who's slowing down? Who's still, like you said, got the juice? Who's really able to still push in the last few laps of it? We got 11 minutes left, just under 11 minutes to go. So that's only a handful of laps. So if they're going to make some moves, they better start thinking about doing it now.
That was Ken Huber making his way by, and it is now closed. Nathan Westland and Roger Schenck back up again. Now down to 3/10. Westland chasing for a long time. We've seen him in some other races, chasing and defending for an entire race, and he's no stranger to it so far this season. But this is going to be a tough ask because it just doesn't seem like down the straight the Porsche's really giving him what he needs into turn one, the most popular passing opportunity by far, at least tonight.
And if turn one is your main passing opportunity, there's only a few more opportunities of turn one left in this race. So you really got to set yourself up right, let your momentum ride. You got to set yourself up just right at the right opportunity. Like everybody thinks it might be, doing the same lap every time and just doing it till the end. But really what it is, you got to set it up. Every lap is different. You're basing it on what you're seeing. Oh no, and a spin from Jeff McDonald. Looks like he got tapped in the rear end and taking some damage, unfortunately, as he hit the wall.
And a familiar sight, unfortunately, for Jeff McDonald here tonight, losing his rear wing, this time able to actually drive to the pits and get that fixed. But this will be a night to forget for Jeff McDonald, who put on a stellar qualifying performance up in second place, was running really strong, and a couple unfortunate incidents really derailing his night tonight, unfortunately.
Yes, he did lose the wing, but it still looks like he has the hanger. So maybe he can go find the nearest dock and wet a line, go fishing, and hang a line off them hooks. See if he can make something out of the day.
Ooh, and this battle between Rick Hughes and Zach Nurnberger has yeah.
Oh.
I think Nurnberger
Whoa.
giving him the room on the inside. I think Hughes just kind of, it's tough in that to go side by side there in Buccine. Let's see if we can get another view of that clip.
Do a rear chase real quick and see what I can see.
Yeah, I think Hughes just shading out a little bit towards Nuremberg. Nuremberg not all the way at the track's edge. Doesn't necessarily have to be.
They were really, really comfortable all the way through into the exit. About halfway through the exit, I think Rick just thought he was going to push a little wider than he did. And when you're both full throttle like that and also full lock on that turn, you touch and you're gone. So I think that was more of a racing incident than anything. I don't think it was necessarily any of their fault.
Unfortunately, a trip out to the wall for Rick Hughes in that incident, and looking like he was missing his rear wing, just like we saw Jeff McDonald. So that is going to have to be a pit stop to fix that, and surely a meatball flag for him.
Well, maybe they can go fishing for meatballs together.
And it looks like Rick Hughes just off track again, so struggling to make his way around the track, I think, too, with the damaged car to just get around back to his pits.
Yeah, I'm watching him right now. You can see the back, and it wants to dance around. So you can see how effective and necessary that rear wing is for these guys. And we're looking at about 7 minutes to go here. So all these minor tight battles, there's only about 2 or 3 really tight battles going on. Nathan Westland only 2.2 seconds behind. Look at him go in that red Porsche. I don't know if he's going to make a look right now, but you know he's setting up. He is looking and waiting. I think he knows he only has one shot to make a move happen.
Well, yeah, he's had a few attempts already, and unfortunately has not panned out for him. Really good defense for Roger Shank, taking the lines he wants through these important corners to make that defense. So Nathan Westland going to have to get a little bit creative. Meanwhile, Josh Doty not making a huge imprint on where he was a few minutes ago. Yeah, now with about 6.5 minutes remaining, going to have to pull something special out here at the end, as he's still around that 7/8 mark, again in third place. So not a bad spot to finish, but when second is that close, you really want to grab it.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, you're coming into the end and you see them right in front of you, but you know how far away it actually is in terms of time and how realistic or unrealistic it is. And at that point, all you're hoping for is they put a tire off into the grass a little bit, get a little shake up, lose 2 or 3 tenths, and then all of a sudden you're on their bumper. That's the only hope you have at that point. You know, and you're doing the best you can. You're doing everything you can to put it in those hot laps, because right now, you know, you got the tires for it too, especially since they all pitted a little late. They got quality tires right now, so they are all pushing hard.
Jack Lucas is making a battle here as well with Christopher Craig. Slowly been catching up here, which they were not this close just a few laps ago. So yeah, you can see Craig, especially last lap, losing 7 tenths to Jack Lucas. And Nathan Westland is currently trying to make it happen. He's on the outside, though, and this has not worked out for him so far. Roger Shank on the inside, and I think it's probably going to turn out the same. Yeah, the outside not working for Nathan Westland there in San Donato.
Yeah, they touched doors, and I think that was what really bumped him off. He probably lost a good 10th, and then the door was closed for that turn. He's going right now on the outside, giving it a try.
Jack Lucas losing some time right when we flipped away. Was closing into Christopher Craig and has lost time there, so I don't know what happened. But this battle that was brewing up towards the end might be falling apart a little bit here.
I think the action resides in Westland right now. I can't peel my eyes away from them too, although I will say Jack Lucas, as aggressive as he is, I wouldn't put it past him to make his way up to put some pressure on.
Jack Lucas getting that draft. You can see the Mercedes really benefiting down the straight. Looks like he gained almost 3 tenths, I think, down that back straight on Christopher Craig in front, who's in the Porsche. Pretty all-arounder car.
It's been the favorite for the biggest part of the series. It's between that and the Ferrari as far as the top picks. But you look at the field today, and you see the majority of the Porsches down low in the field, interestingly enough.
I think it is a popular car. It's an easy-to-drive car, but it doesn't seem to be getting everything out of it like the Ferrari has been able to do today. Because, again, we're seeing a lot of those guys, 5 in the top 8. Only 3 non-Ferraris showing up there, with Don McCloy as the highest Porsche. Nathan Westland wants the inside, but he's not close enough this time around. It would have been nice. John Kelly making things a little bit sketchier with the lockup there, but nothing affecting
Yeah.
this battle.
Yeah, it looked like he was trying to do what I was mentioning earlier about following that GTP through the gap that was made, but it was just the wrong time. He went in on the outside, and the GT3 cannot really pass on the outside,
Nick
even
Terrell,
if you do have an extra few miles an
with
hour.
3 minutes to go, Nick Terrell is the fastest man on track for these GTPs, and he is taking chunks out of the lead of Paul Skip, who has now brought it down to sub 2 seconds. They are now picking their way through some traffic. None of the GT3s too close to make this too much of an effect. But most of these sectors, Skip losing some significant time. That's the only one where he really equaled him, and you could see Terrell get slowed down by that GT3 in an unfortunate section of track. So not a lot of time to make the catch up, but he is flying out here right now, and Terrell probably wishing we are running 100-minute races as opposed to 90s.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be wishing that, as we're going to be doing for next season. But looking at the
Next season's 120 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's 120 minutes. So yeah, full 2 hours. So I'm watching Paul Skip from the blimp, and you can clearly see the pace that Terrell has, and he knows this is it. This is it.
He's bringing it down to
2 minutes.
1.7 into Buccine. This is
There
might
is-
be the white flag here.
I
gonna
see
be
about
very
a minute and a
close.
half. I feel like we have one more to white. We'll see.
I think I see the white flag being waved. Yeah, white flag being waved. So white flag lap that Paul Skip's only got to do one more lap. He's got a 1.7 seconds. That's a big ask for Nick Terrell there. James Foreman just making the pass on Jesse Coffey. What happened to Jesse Coffey there? Jesse Coffey was off track. We will check back on that incident later
Yeah.
as we have
I will
this
say,
lead.
Nick Terrell really wishes that white flag didn't drop, because I really think he could get on the bumper of him within 2 laps. I don't think he can make it happen right now. Although right now it's being held up. Paul Skip held up by GT3s. Nick Terrell coming up behind him now. He's only 0.8 seconds away, but also Nick Terrell being held up a little bit. And he's getting close. I don't think he's got it in him to do it in this one lap, but
back to 1.6 seconds, and it looks like Paul Skip's going to be able to escape with the win here today if he just makes it through these last couple corners mistake-free. Not a lot of traffic in front of him, but a strong showing for Nick Terrell here to make this a game late, with Skip probably getting a little bit of sweat on his brow here at the end.
yeah, I mean, he's probably white knuckling a little bit more than he usually has to. Just like Ken Huber's been doing a little more white knuckling than he usually has to. It looks like he's safe now, but still, he's going to be happy about taking the top for the A class of GT3s, as is Paul Skip on the top podium.
Paul Skip rounded Buccine here down the straight, early finish line, which is extra benefit for him. Nick Terrell just 1.7 seconds back, but Paul Skip with another victory on the season. Nick Terrell, his closest rival, will fall back a couple more points, save maybe bonus points, safety points, mixing things up. And then further back in the field, Ken Huber. Well, that's actually, no, he's right in front of our driver right there. Ken Huber is the leader. This is his last lap here, his white flag lap. And he is leading by 30 seconds over Sheldon Rosenbaum. Again, Jay Smart, an unscored GT3 driver here, who's a few seconds ahead of Ken Huber on track right now. And it looks, Ken Huber actually on a different lap, so he's already secured. So Sheldon Rosenbaum crossing the line in his debut in second place. Josh Doty trying to keep it competitive, trying to catch up at the end, finishes third, 1 second back.
That is incredibly impressive from Sheldon Rosenbaum in his debut. To take P3 of the GT3s. I know Jay Smart is kind of a gray area, so we'll call it P2 for Sheldon and P1 for his class in B series of GT3s. Impressive for your first race out. We wish you had been here since race 1.
Mauricio Parada crossing the line in his debut in 6th place overall. Adrian Garcia recovering to a 7th place. Christopher Craig behind, and again, that not for position there for Aaron Clayball. So he comes across, Jack Lucas, James Foreman crossing, and James Foreman key also 1 second in front of Jesse Coffey. Foreman coming into this race as the GT3B leader, and now 1 spot ahead of the driver that he's trying to pull a gap on. So it was looking bad for him late in this race, but has now recovered that. Now Ken Huber, basically the only guy left to finish a lap here. as he comes across the line with a 30-second lead. Wonderful race for Ken, and another win. That is 6 wins in 7 races.
I will say, I don't think Ken has much competition. Imagine the drop weeks that he drops. It's going to be his P2 for sure. We'll see what happens in the future, but he's definitely going to be very happy about this win to further extend his championship lead.
So we take a look back to see that incident that caused Jesse Coffey to lose what would have been a reclamation of the GT3B lead. This very late in the race, I think this is on the second to last lap, and just the tires giving out on him and a bit of a kiss on the wall to top it off.
He was a little bit momentum happy and maybe tapped the throttle when he shouldn't have potentially. It looks like he carried way too much speed into that turn and trusted the tires a little too much.
Yeah, at least able to get it around without having to do a 3-point turn, but lost a lot of time, unfortunately, in that incident there. So let's look at our official results for today's Mugello race.
As they roll in for the GTP class, we'll start off with our race winner, Nicholas Piletti for Dare Squad Racing.
I'm sorry, that was the qualifying results. That was my bad.
Never mind. Let's start over. Here we go for finishing results. Paul Skip, that makes way more sense. Winner of Pony Express Racing Squad. Behind him, Nick Terrell, only 1.66 seconds behind. We saw him trying his best to catch up. Behind him, in third, Nicholas Piletti from Dare Squad. Fourth, John Kelly from Ninja Old Age and Treachery Racing. And behind him, Dustin Glenn, the newcomer. And obviously, Ryan Givon had issues with his equipment, so he will take the bottom, but did not actually race.
Meanwhile, for our GTDs, coming across the line provisionally first with Jay Smart, unscored, so our winner, Ken Huber, there in first place with another win on the season. Top 2 in every race this season and won all but one. Only was second in that first race at Daytona. Sheldon Rosenbaum on debut comes in second with Josh Doty rounding out the podium there in third. Following them, Don McCloy, Kevin Berquist, and Mauricio Parada, with Kevin Berquist as the winner for GT3B. Adrian Garcia, Christopher Craig, and Jack Lucas. And James Foreman finishing there in 10th and extending his lead on the GT3B championship. Jesse Coffey, Travis Rowe, and Roger Schenk behind them, as well as Nathan Westland, Zach Nurnberger, Dan Barnett, Rick Hughes, Aaron Claybaugh, Philip Rainieri, Jeff McDonald, Daniel Sykes, Leonardo Elijah, James Rep, and lastly, Greg Holland.
Large field tonight. Absolutely solid race here at Mugello in Italy. Beautiful racetrack, tight racetrack. It's been a difficult one for some, an easier one for some. I got here in the booth with me, Paul Skip, our winner of the GTP class. Mr. Paul, I noticed you see in your rear view Nick Terrell approaching you in the ending laps of the race. With the GT3 traffic and navigating that, how worried were you that he might actually push you and make you race for position?
Well, I was pretty worried about it. Hence, I started dropping, started gaining the lap time back. I was actually saving fuel. I didn't know if I'd have enough to finish. And I saw I had a pretty good gap back to Nick. So I started slowing way down. I was rolling through a lot of corners, just coasting. And then all of a sudden, crew chief comes on and says, "Oh, Terrell's 2 seconds back." I was like, "It's time to go."
And confirm, yeah, we were watching him. He was sneaking up on you, and I think traffic had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to play the game, where I wait and, save some gas, but then hopefully not lose too much time to Nick. I mean, I knew I had time to lose, but I didn't know I was losing quite that much.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very difficult track as it is. So just managing to do what you did is incredible. And also seeing that Nick Terrell was approaching you is more so. to his racecraft. And we know he's an aggressive driver. We see you more as the calm and calculated driver as opposed to the get it and shit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I try to be a thinking driver. I try not to take unnecessary risks, and I try to respect the other racers because I know they're racing too, and we're all just out here trying to have a good time.
Indeed. And when you start getting too aggressive, that's when you'll make mistakes that will ruin your race as well as potentially someone else's race. So, luckily for you tonight, you put it all together and were able to secure the win. So, that's going to help you out in the championship, absolutely. And what a beautiful track today here at Mugello.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, have a good night.
And it looks like that is it for who we have in the waiting room. No other drivers have shown up. So I guess that will be it for driver interviews. I will say that this is an incredible track, and as driving it myself in practice with some of the guys leading up to it, this was a nail biter. This is a white knuckler. So the fact that they could really get around and have really not too much of issue is incredible, even with 2 weeks of practice as opposed to our normal 1 week between races with the break in between. Still, this would be one of the most difficult tracks that we're going to be running all week, and I want to congratulate every racer out there who put it in and did some laps.
Yeah, saw a lot of unwavering resolve here for these fellas tonight. So congratulations on our winners tonight with Paul Skip, Ken Huber, and Kevin Berquist, and all the drivers for finishing this race here. So again, if you are here for Endurance for Amateurs, we'll be here at the exact same time next week for Road America. So widening up that track a little bit and coming back to the United States for Road America, followed by a few more big F1 tracks after that. So again, we will see you next week at the same time.
Yes, indeed. That's going to be very exciting, and you aren't going to want to miss it. We'll be here.
All right, have a good night, everyone.